Welcome to Bruce Hurwitz Presents Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Bruce Hurwitz of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. You can find us on the web at hsstaffing.com. I hope you'll consider us for all your staffing, career counseling, and professional writing needs. Momentarily, I will be joined by Dr. Richard Kaye, and we'll be discussing profitability and powerful publicity. Meet the Experts is sponsored by P&K CPAs. P&K is a full-service accounting firm. They provide accounting and consulting services to businesses ranging from startups to small and mid-cap companies to nonprofits as well as high-net-worth individuals. Contact them today for a free consultation at info@pk-cpas.com or call them at 973-882-8810. They will be happy to be of service. Richard, welcome to the program.
A pleasure to be here, Bruce.
It is my pleasure. Please take a moment or two and introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, what an opportunity. Retired chiropractor, grew up on Long Island, moved to San Diego, had a magnificent practice, and we'll talk in a little bit about all that publicity and how I created that wonderful practice. And these days, Bruce, I serve entrepreneurs by helping them secure profitable and powerful publicity.
What is publicity?
Oh, let's begin with a distinction because people often confuse PR, public relations, and publicity. From the 50,000-foot view, PR is making phone calls, yes, even sending out faxes today, sending emails, you pay someone to do that, and you pitch them a great story, and you pray to God someone says, I want to run with this story. Does it work? Remarkably well. Well, it really does.
Yes?
But it's a crapshoot because you don't know if someone's going to pick it up. What we do at Top Talent Agency is different than that. We guarantee placement. We guarantee, for example, ladies and gentlemen, if you're an author, an emerging author, even an existing author, we guarantee a best-selling book, but not just a best-selling book, Bruce, a #1 best-selling book, and not just in a single category, but in multiple categories. We guarantee placing people on stages. We guarantee getting people featured in newspapers and magazines. That's a distinction between publicity and PR.
There are a lot of not exactly scrupulous people out there. There was, for a long time, I was thinking about this today, maybe I was thinking about this interview, had it in the back of my mind. There was a company that would guarantee you that you would appear on the broadcast networks. And what they did was they would send out a press release that had something on it called the top professionals in these categories for the coming week. And because they needed material for their websites, they would appear on the websites of CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, whatever the broadcast networks were on their fax list, but they were never on the television.
Yeah.
There are those who get up and say that they are best-selling authors. And what they're talking about is Amazon. I am a 3-time best-selling author on Amazon. 2 were #1s in the United States. 1 was also a #1 internationally, and 1 was #4 in the United States.
Congratulations.
But thank you, but it doesn't really mean that much. And I even have a video on my website on the Meet Bruce page where I explain how to become an Amazon best-selling author, because all you have to do is be in the top 100 for 1 hour of any given day in any category, and you can pick a category that is not very popular, and yeah, you'll be a best-selling author. But how do you become a best-selling author on the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, where the number of sales is what's important. You have to get six-figure sales.
So, as an answer to your question, being a #1 best-selling author on Amazon is powerful when you know how to leverage it. I work with a lot of people, again, authors, emerging authors. Some of them have been to #1 and they don't know what to do with it. We work with our clients, Bruce. So, and ladies and gentlemen, if you have a book and it hit #1, take pictures of it, send emails to everybody, leverage it, use it as leverage. New York Times, Wall Street, that's big business. And you're right, those are in the millions. And it can cost you. A very dear friend of mine gets New York Times best-selling authors. He's a publicist. It can cost you $1 million to do that. Now, once you have achieved that outstanding success, everything changes. I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, well, the president of our company, David Fagan, the name of the company is Top Talent Agency. David, Bruce, you may be familiar with, ladies and gentlemen, you may be familiar with J. Conrad Levinson and Guerrilla Marketing. David was CEO of that company. They sold 26 million books in 62 languages. David knows a lot about publicity and publishing and getting best-selling books. He brings that to our company. When I started my chiropractic practice, I drove from New York out to San Diego, 300 chiropractors in San Diego at the time. How do you start or grow any business? I learned about publicity, Bruce, very early. I got myself invited to be a guest on the morning television talk show in San Diego. I turned that into getting invited back every month. Then I got an article in the San Diego Tribune. Then I got an article in the Los Angeles Times. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why that kind of media, that kind of being featured is important. Bruce, one day I got a phone call from the producer of the ABC News in San Diego. The essence of the conversation was, who are you? We're seeing your name. We're hearing a lot about you. Now I'm featured on the 6:30 News. Shortly after that, I got another phone call from the producer at PBS, very similar. We've seen you around. People are talking about you. Now I got a PBS special about me. That's what publicity is. Is it powerful? Yes, you get to stand out from the crowd. You get to be the person say, I've heard your name and I want to know about you. It doesn't make a difference what you do. In your services, there are myriad people doing what you do. Why choose you? If you haven't yet, it's just an invitation, leverage your book. That's what publicity is about. I got a best-selling book. It may only have been for an hour. It's still a best-selling book. It still counts. When I used to run in San Diego, when you cross that finish line, that moment's over, but you can still say, and I didn't run full, but I ran a bunch of half marathons. I got T-shirts to prove it from back then. You leverage that stuff. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly what I did. That's why
Yes.
I wrote the books. That's why I self-published, which is a term I hate because it's not publishing. It's having somebody print and bind the book. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not being published. It doesn't go through a vetting process. In some cases, you have to pay. In some cases, they take a percentage of the sales. That's what Amazon does. I use Amazon.
Well, there are three basic kinds of publishers. What you did was smart. The big houses, the Putnams, the Randoms. If you, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go at them, they're going to ask you a very important question. What's your marketing budget? Because you're right, Bruce.
That's
Publish just means disseminating information. And also, you know that you're smart because you go to those guys, they own the rights for about 5 years or more. And you're lucky if you get 20, 25 cents a book.
Well, my first two books were published traditionally, and it took some time to get them out. And
Yeah.
since I wanted the book for business purposes, if you
Mhm.
want, you can say for self-promotion.
Yes.
I wasn't going to wait a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. See, and then there's you and me as an individual. Like you said, you can go on Amazon, publish KDP. No one knows the quality and no one reads it except a couple of friends because there's no marketing. Then you got companies such as what we do with Top Talent, where we edit it, we lay it out, we split test the covers to make sure they're appealing, and then it can be a bestseller. David and I were invited to speak at a conference in Denver several months ago. We brought one of our clients with us, and she had a couple of minutes, 15 minutes or so to speak. Almost immediately, 300 sales. Now, if your name is John Grisham, that's a nanosecond, or Michael Connolly, or any of them.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with people such as we, somewhere in that broad spectrum, and unless they're shysters, there are a lot of them out there, you get the results. So, and getting published and getting featured in newspapers is something that's important. We have a program, and ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go check it out, it's called featurememore.com. Featurememore.com. We guarantee being featured in big city newspapers, from London to Seattle to Washington, D.C. Chronicle, Los Angeles Times. Bruce, you know the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know, correct? You've heard that.
Of course.
Take it a step further. It's who knows you. That's like my phone calls from PBS. It's for real, it's a PBS special. It was a while ago. I was handing my practice members VHS, this is a while ago. When you're in the newspapers, people see your name. It's name recognition. And that's the only thing that publicity does. It doesn't make you money. It's what you do on the back end that makes you the money. That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. Now, I've been in newspapers, websites, over 750 times, over 500 different publications across the United States, and I think 30, 35 foreign countries, something like that. And I did it using a website I'm sure you're acquainted with, Help a Reporter Out.
Yes.
And the reason that I like them is that the reporters are, in essence, coming to you, so you don't have to pitch to them an idea. You pitch to them an answer to their inquiry. So that's a lot easier. But what I learned is I was quoted for the same article. It appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the paper, the physical paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget all their websites, either 3 or 4. I don't remember. I received absolutely no acknowledgement from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got picked up by some website that I had never heard of. And from that, I got a lot of responses.
Yeah, good for you.
So it's funny how today, being in the major newspapers doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get any type of attention. It may come from websites that you've never heard of before, but that actually have followers.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And here's a distinction between what we do, for example, and HARO, Help a Reporter Out. Just yesterday, I submitted something and I missed the deadline by 10 minutes. And I get an autoresponder says, no thanks. That's the only time you hear from Harrow. It's a crapshoot. You don't know if they're going to pick it up. And you have anonymous. Anonymous, by the way, simply is generally the larger publications, not the smaller ones. They just don't want everyone flooding those. The distinction between Harrow and what we do is we guarantee, because we work with our clients.
Yeah.
We will help them edit and write so it's appealing. Most people think they're writers. They don't know. They don't know how to edit. And Grammarly isn't the end all to everything. And we guarantee the placement. So yeah, Howard was brilliant, and congratulations on your
You are
accomplishment.
100% correct. They don't, when the reporter quotes you, they don't let you know
No,
usually. Some do.
nothing.
But what I have found, first off, I do a Google search of my name
Hmm.
because that's how I use 95% of the time, that's how I found out that I was quoted wherever I was quoted,
Yeah.
or misquoted wherever I was quoted. Which I laugh about because when you use Harrow, it's all in writing. So they still misquote you.
Yes.
But I forgot what my point was.
About
But what I
getting
do
noticed.
is I will include in my response that I have how many, now it's 90,000 accounts on social media. So 90,000 followers, whatever. And then I will share it with my network. And if they give me their Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever handle, I will include that in my post. That sometimes gets things moving in my direction.
And it's a very wise thing you do, Bruce, because you're saying, hey, if you promote me, I'll promote you. And that's what publicity is about, getting noticed. Again, congratulations on having that many followers. It means you're doing a good job. People want to know what you do. So again, the distinction between what we do is we work with you. It's not just a blind submission.
What
And
about advertising?
Everyone knows what advertising is. Um, Interesting. Many people watched the Super Bowl a couple of days ago. Advertising is in your face, in your face, in your face. Here's what's so, and this is just a cute sidebar. The average Super Bowl ad was $7 million. The average human being speaks about 238 words a minute. If you clock that in speaking, that comes out to about $58,000 a word. That's what it costs on the Super Bowl. Now, most of us don't refine enough of our language to have that almost $60,000 per word value. Advertising works. It's over and over. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. Bruce and listeners, you're mostly aware Coca-Cola is one of the most highly, if not the most highly consumed beverage on the planet. Everybody knows Coca-Cola. They spent, I believe it was $4 billion on advertising in 2022. I don't know the 23 data. That's called top of mind awareness. Top of mind awareness is what keeps people, top of mind. Now, Coke, like Kodak, like Xerox, have become in the vernacular, meaning the general term. I'll get a Kleenex. No, you want a tissue? Well, I got Kleenex. So with publicity, that's why with us, it's not just getting an article in the newspaper or getting a best-selling book. It's how we work with people. We get them on stages. We get them on media. We get them. So it's, oh, I saw you there. I saw you there. I read about you here. Advertising, everyone knows it's paid. I'd be interested to know the data on how many people watch a Super Bowl just for the ads, just for the commercials. So
I'm sure that's out there.
yeah, I'm sure somebody will figure that out. If not, they'll make it up. So
You have people, I'll put it this way. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm a professional writer. I've written a lot of speeches. I've written a few TED Talks and a lot of TEDx talks.
And
it's like sending out my baby.
yeah.
And every so often, one of the speakers will be recorded, something I suggest for especially if they're just starting out, because I never knew that when I stood at a podium, I would rock back and forth. No one ever mentioned it to me. As soon as I saw it, I became conscious of it and stopped. So I looked more professional. Even if I was speaking nonsense, I at least looked professional if I didn't sound professional. but I send a speech off, they deliver it. You can have a great speech and your delivery is awful.
Yes.
So how do you work with people to train them? For example, this one question that I always ask a client is there any word that you have difficulty pronouncing?
Good move. Yeah.
I, for example, still have a problem with the word cumulative. I won't put it in a speech because I'm going to become self-conscious. I'm going to pause. I'm going to smile. I'll be nervous, and people say, "What's he nervous about? What's going on here?" So I just don't use the word.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that when you get the person on the stage, they're not going to make a fool out of themselves and therefore embarrass you, and it'll hurt your credibility when you call up the same promoter and say, "Look, I know Bruce was horrible. I'm sorry about that, but Joe was magnificent."
For our clients, we have private retreats, maybe 20, 25 people. And they're up in front of friends, all clients, and it's positive reinforcement. We video it. You said you do that because you saw it. It's very, very good. And I have language from a colleague of mine. We go around the room, what worked for me and what didn't work for me and what could be done better. Now, why is that language important? It's my individual impression of it. If I say it didn't work, it may work perfectly from someone else's perspective. Thank God we're all different. So in those intimate environments, and this is not in front of 1,000 people, it's a couple of, 24 people, they get loving coaching. Does everyone take it? Not everyone turns into a Richard Burton and, can deliver a soliloquy that knock your socks off. We work with people to help them improve the quality of their lives in many levels. And not everybody wants to be out on stage. And some people shouldn't be on stage, let's face it. So those who have that desire, we will work with them. We also produce television shows for people. We just had a contest, as a matter of fact. There's a sidebar here. We do free events. And we're always having contests. Somebody won a $50,000 book award, a book program. 2 weeks ago, actually last week, someone won a $61,000 television show. We are producing a television show for her. She will own all the rights. We are working with her so that she is a superstar for exactly the reason you suggested, Bruce. It's on us. She's, if someone shows up and they make a fool of themselves, we want to know that before, because it represents everything. And we want our people to shine.
I had an acquaintance and I asked him, he's a comedian, he's a stand-up comedian. And I said to him, I just dealt with a career counseling client who bombed in an interview. And then he came to me and I helped him with his interviewing skills. And his body language, all of a sudden he became uncomfortable. And I said, "What's wrong? What happened?" I don't remember his name. I wouldn't tell you even if I did, because it wouldn't be proper. But he got onto the Tonight Show. One of the producers of the Tonight Show saw him, invited him on. He accepted. He showed up. He was bumped. I believe that's the expression. He was bumped, and then he came back and he was bumped a second time. And the third time he wasn't bumped. He was blockaded. He's told me he got to the curtain and he couldn't go through.
Wow.
And the show is recorded, so they were able to do whatever they did.
Next.
not to embarrass,
Sure.
But one thing about Johnny Carson, I don't have the patience to watch the new Tonight shows. But one thing about Johnny Carson was he had a rule. He would never attack anyone, make jokes about someone if they were ill. Jay Leno followed that rule.
Mm-hmm.
you would never intentionally embarrass somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I follow. I've had people on who anybody watching knows that I know that that I wouldn't want to be seen in public with them. All right. I wouldn't want to work with them. And I get the message across by the questions that I ask,
Mm-hmm.
but not by trying to demean. I give them the opportunity to defend themselves. I hope you'll agree this is a friendly interview, even if I'm
Absolutely.
asking questions. But you can go in front of an audience of 20, 25 people who are all in the same boat as you, and that's one thing. But if you're standing up, and I know this from personal experience from the first time I had to do it, I had to present part of my doctoral dissertation literally to my bibliography. All the authors I was quoting were sitting in the room.
Mm.
And I was scared out of my gourd. And I was standing at the podium and the paper was shaking and I was hiding the paper. And the gentleman who introduced me as doctor. So I decided maybe if I make a joke that I'll calm down. So I said to him, since you're an under general secretary of the United Nations and you just called me doctor, does that mean I don't have to actually finish writing the dissertation? And he laughed and he said, no, you still have to do it. And there were some chuckles in the audience and that calmed me down. How important is a sense of humor to being successful with publicity?
It is critical. It's don't take anything personally and don't take anything seriously. As a matter of fact, I have an adage, if it's not fun, don't do it. And if you must do it, make it fun. It has to be, humor has to be used judiciously, though. Humor will never make a sale. It gets the audience engaged. Who was it? Henry Youngman, self-deprecating humor. That was his whole shtick. But you've got to be able to play with the audience. You've got to be able to read the audience. You've got to be in your strength and in your power and know that it's okay to screw up. One of my mentors one day, among his other gifts was a speaker trainer. That's not our shtick. We're not speaker trainers. We can send people, if they want to do a TEDx, etc. And he took his glasses and he put them down. And a couple of minutes later, he says, where did I put my glasses? Oh, there they are. His point was, don't be so polished that you're a machine. Be human, be real. Play with the audience. If you make a mistake, boy, that was a screw. And you go on. People want to know that even when we're in the front of the room, we are human, not autonomous. See, I can't even say that word.
It's funny you should use the example of glasses because I use it too, but a different context. History books. Washington, when he was at Valley Forge and his forces were about to desert him, he put on his glasses. And then he appeared like an old man, a grandfather, and they didn't desert.
Wow.
He convinced them to stay. That was the trick that he used.
Yeah.
Self-deprecating humor, though, I would say that Rodney Dangerfield was more than Henny Youngman. Henny Youngman was more the one-liners.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Rodney Dangerfield was I get no respect.
Yeah.
And you see them both on YouTubes of Johnny Carson, which is what I use when I train somebody when they say to me, what do I do if the joke doesn't work? Watch the master.
Yeah.
And, it's true. Comics, comedians say the lonely place in the world is being on a stage when you tell a joke and there's no reaction.
No response. Yeah.
And that happened to me once. And then I said, okay, what did Carson do? And then I just did whatever he did.
Mhm.
And everybody laughed and it was fine. And we moved on.
And that's the key, Bruce. It's next. It's next. You can't. Another mentor of mine used to say, "It's not happening now." It's like, oh, that's brilliant. It's next.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No one died.
yeah, yeah. Just keep
Richard,
it.
I'm going to put up your contact information and ask you a final question.
Okay.
Is there anything that I did not ask you that you wish I had asked you? And if I had asked you, what would you have said?
Whoa, that's pretty good. Yeah. How do I keep a positive attitude when some things just look like they're crashing? And it's basically what I just said before. It's not happening now. Do I have control over it? If not, then ignore it. There's another moment and another moment, and that's all there is right now. And we've all been through crap in our lives. Things look like they're falling apart. Hey, put it in perspective. Um, my son was over yesterday and he was talking about something that he'd seen on a television show. I'm just going to encapsulate it, where this person was blind and disfigured from some horrible skin disease. And he said, you know, Dad, whenever I'm having a lousy day, I can look at that and say, thank God I'm healthy. Honor what you've got, recognize what you have. Don't honor what you don't have. Pay in a higher vibration. And the biggest thing is show up and serve others. Thank you, Bruce.
Richard, I thank you. This has been informative and frankly enjoyable. And I appreciate it, and I'm sure our viewers do as well.
Thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. I'm Bruce Hurwitz. Thank you for watching. And as always, please stay focused on success.